What is up, everyone from Pono Quest? Got a story for you today, and it's about being Pono. And Pono means showing up and showing up consciously, showing up aware. So I'm going to tell you a story about a time in my life that has ups, that has downs, and lefts and rights. And I'm sure if you have had any challenges or difficult times in your life, or even had spectacular times in your life, you'll be able to relate to this because life doesn't ever go linear where it's just one way going up, easy peasy, doesn't happen. So my journey towards becoming a professional fighter started with a desire to try something that was scary, to try something that was different, and to try something other people told me not to do. And so that's what I did is I started training and working towards my journey of being a fighter. And whenever you try something new or different, first you never realize how much you suck at it. You get a new awareness to where you're really bad. And I'll give a story of the first time I had a boxing match. I always thought boxing was two guys punching each other in the face. Simple as that. And I learned really, really fast. It was one guy getting punched in the face, which was me, and me hitting a lot of air. I couldn't hit him. I hit him in the chest one time. I think he was being kind of a jerk, but he goes, "Man, that was a good chest shot." I'm like, well, that was messed up. And I learned real fast how little I knew about the sport and how far away I was from getting to where I wanted to go. But I was still intrigued, and I wanted to try. I wanted to see what I could become in the sport that I was doing. And so that's what I did, is I just kept trying. I ended up hiring a couple coaches and learning from some skill sets. And I had my first fight, and it was a rush, to say the least. I had an absolute blast. It's indescribable because the intensity of getting your hands wrapped and walking into a cage and saying, "Oh my God, I'm really doing this right now. I'm really trying this." And then going out and actually doing it, and living it and being a part of it. And so I ended up winning clearly. I got a second round submission. Thinking back to it, I looked like absolute dog crap. My fighting skill wasn't there at all. But I liked it, and I felt like it was something that I could be good at. And so that's when I started dedicating myself to the sport even more. I ended up training with Arizona Combat Sports because they were known for getting fighters into the UFC. They had gotten several fighters into the UFC, and I thought maybe I should try going into the UFC. Let me give it a try and see how well I do. So I get a couple fights under my belt, and I'm doing really well on the journey. And I go to Trevor. I go, "Trevor, I want to be in the UFC in less than a year." And he gives me this smirk look on his face, just judging me. Didn't say anything, just judged me that day. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess he doesn't believe that I can do it. So the next day rolls around. He ends up sitting me down. And he says, "No one makes it in the UFC in less than a year." He goes, "You're fighting with the best of the best. It just doesn't happen." And I say, "Okay, Trevor, I respect your opinion and I get it, but I got to try. I just got to try." And he respected me enough to say, "Okay, I'll try with you." And so that's what we did. We tried together. He was amazed by how quickly I was improving as a fighter. And it was funny because he was almost so amazed that he thought I always had these natural gifts. And there was nothing natural about it. There was a lot of days of shadow boxing by myself in my home, a lot of days of keeping my hands up, slipping, keeping my butt under me, getting the pivot of the foot. And some of you might not understand some of the terminologies that I'm saying, but keeping my elbows in close to my rib cage, all the little subtle details that I would practice day in and day out. And I just kept practicing it and practicing it and practicing it. And sometimes when people see the new you, they think that was always you. And I get it because I've had several transformations on my journey, and people always think you're that new thing. They don't remember the work that you put in to become that thing. And that's okay. Part of the journey. And so as I continued to tailor my craft and put it together and I'm winning fight after fight, it got kind of funny. Because as you move up the totem pole, you get a target on your back. And I got a target on my back. I was fighting a guy, his name was Artinez Young, and he was picked to beat me. And some people would call it a setup. I call it's just fighting is fighting. You can't really get set up. There's a winner and a loser. But I was expected to lose this fight. And you best believe I'm going to take a fight I'm expected to lose, because why not? So I take the fight and I end up beating him and beating him handily. Like, that was my fight. And it shocked a lot of people. And the next couple of days after that, I get the call. Hey, we need someone. Can your guy be ready? How much time do we get? 2 weeks. And I said, why not? Let's give it a try. We've worked hard. I didn't get hurt this fight. Let's see what we got. I'm in shape. I'm ready to go. And so that's what I did. I got into the UFC. It was funny. Trevor was shocked because he goes, wow, we got in the UFC in less than 10 months. Who would have known? And that's the way life works sometimes. Now, I can't say you'll get what you want in a short amount of time as you ask for it. But I can say this. Life comes down to believing in yourself fully. Because there's going to be times others don't believe in you. There's going to be times where reality sets into people and they say this can't be done because it hasn't been done yet. And that's okay. But you can't allow their thoughts and their opinions to cloud the reality that you see. If you have a vision and you see a possibility and you see potential in it, go after it and take action. Now, I'm not saying just to keep your head in the clouds. It's about keeping your head in the clouds and your feet on the ground. It's about believing boldly and bravely, but it's also about taking the realistic steps and implementation to go after those things most people won't go after. For a lot of reasons, actually. One of my favorite ones is because it's fun. Why not chase the storm instead of wait for the storm to come to you? Why not go after life, grab the bull by the horns, and do the things that you need to do to become the person you want to become, so you can say, wow, I did something others said I couldn't do. Because when you do that, you give others the power to do things others said they couldn't do. I'm sure a lot of you can understand and resonate with this message because life is a consistent battle of wills to an extent. It's a battle of will with yourself. It's a battle of wills with others. It's a battle of wills with nature. But when you show up and you show up fully and you show up bravely and you stand tall, you'd be surprised what you can grow into. You'd be surprised what you could do. You'd be surprised at who you could become. So my Pono message to you: show up fully. Show up authentically. Show up as your best. Take responsibility and adjust accordingly. Keep going after what you want. You can't lose in this game, but you can learn. And you can learn consistently. Actually, the only way you can lose is if you go off into outer space and do something obnoxious. Like, I'm not telling people to do that, but I am saying push the edge. Push the edge of your reality. Because when you do that, you stretch into new places and new uncharted territory. And then you start liking it. And you don't stop. You keep moving forward. So keep being great, my Pono pros, and keep doing amazing things on your journey. Thank you.
We got it. Love it, Cliff. You know, I think one of my biggest pet peeves, and especially as I get older and older and older, I never liked it when people would say you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even when something is actually possible, maybe they just underestimate your skill or your abilities. And I think that's gotten worse for me over the years because I realize what I don't know. You know, something that I completely believed in at one time, and 10 years later, it's like, man, if I had all this other information, what a difference that would make. And if you assume that we only know a fraction of what's real, you know, our eyes and our ears and our touch can only sense so much. We don't know exactly reality. We just have a vision of it. And then to have other people in a way be so arrogant as to say, no, that can't happen. You know, so it kind of twerks me now, especially having kids, because maybe that wasn't the right word. Especially having kids, because they grow up and they can visualize whatever. They can dream as big as they want to dream. And the adults around them or their peers keep telling them what they can't do, what they can't do, what they can't do, what they can't do. And so then their belief, their dreams just start to shrink. So yeah, I can really relate to that story. I shared a video on our group the other day about this vet who got in an accident, and he was, I don't know, way overweight. I think you saw that, Rick. Doctor said you'll never be able to walk unassisted again, because he had braces on, he had these arm crutches and everything. He was probably 300 pounds, and he hooked up with someone that said, no, I'm going to help you out. It was a yoga instructor. So he started working at it. And at the end of the video, he's walking unassisted, and then he just takes off on a dead sprint.
Yeah. Diamond Dallas Page was helping the paratrooper.
Yep.
And and there were times, and it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it, because he was so, like, you got to see the raw truth. He fell over and he goes, just because I can't do it now doesn't mean I can't do it later.
Yeah.
And he just kept at it. And he kept at it. And it shows him sprinting at the end, and it shows on the title, and the best part was the doctors were wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yep. I love it. Yeah. So yeah, that's so important for people to understand what your message, that especially in the medical field. I'm sorry, but you go to a doctor and they make people sick because they tell them they're sick. They tell them they can't do this.
Yeah.
And it's a placebo. It's a reverse placebo essentially. And so they go, oh, well, this doctor who knows all tells me that I'm not going to be able to recover.
Yeah. Yeah.
I told you it's
And
my
that,
pet peeve. I can go off on that all day.
yeah, I respect the pet peeve. I respect it. And I look at life as, so life is always giving us lessons. Like that's the beauty of it. And one thing that most people can agree on is they love a light lit sky, like a star lit sky. Love it. The most beautiful thing to see, all of those stars shining in a dark, dark sky. And I go, huh. And I look at the naysayers and the doubters and the people that are hating. That's just darkness. And I get to the choice, like, all right, do I go back to that darkness with more darkness, or do I just light the fuck up? Do I just light up and just say like, yeah you can, right?
Yeah.
Because all that is, that's ants. It would be like if I was getting mad at ants talking about me. Now, again, it's true that if there's like thousands upon thousands of ants saying enough stuff and putting enough junk into our head, then it's over.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can just remind a person that they're a creative genius and that they get to choose, like, you get to choose if you're going to listen to this or not. You get a choice. You get to make a decision. You get to decide. That's the beauty of it.
Mm-hmm.
What decision are you going to make? Are you going to listen to a bunch of haters who create their own reality? They're just creating their reality. Like, all right, you want to naysay, you want to tell people what they can't do? Cool. I get it. That's you just talking to yourself.
I kind of got lit up a little bit ago earlier. So, I mean, we're talking pet peeves, triggers, whatever you want to use, right? We can unearth some of this. And it kind of brings me back to a place where when someone told me and said to me, called me and said, you're uncoachable. You're
Mm-hmm.
uncoachable,
Yeah.
uncoachable. And the thought that went through my mind in that moment was, no, I am certainly coachable. In fact, I'm moving in the direction of what I want to experience, but and I want people in my inner circle that support the highest ideal of me, right?
Yeah.
Initially, the trigger is like, I mean, so you got a flood of different emotions that are kicking, right? And you go, oh, okay, now I'm making the meaning of what this means, right? So I'm using that as momentum to kick the flywheel going, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I recognize the energy of what it is. Oh yeah, I'm up against something. You said I can't. And is that a reality, or how do I reframe this to be, who it is I want to be? I'm certainly coachable, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's there's a difference between manipulation, right,
Yeah.
and true empowerment, right? Am I here for you, or are you here for me, or are we here for each other? Because life is symbiotic and you get what you put into it. It just shows up for you. You're right, Steve. We don't know what we don't know. I don't have a clue, right? But I can seek to understand. I can stay curious, and I can go after what it is I want to experience. Dude, you are phenomenal. Like, from a physical standpoint, like you and Steve, you guys have aspects of your reality that I've never been intangible with. Okay. And I say this because it is a physical confidence that you exhibit as a UFC fighter. Steve is a master of 8 different martial arts, right? You still have a respect for another, but there's no fear. There's just cognizance in relation to another human being in a blood sport, if you will. And that's what I mean. It's just coming up against that place of life or death. Or is it me or another human being? And you recognize it, there is only you. right? There is only you in this art, and you put it to a test in something like the UFC or in something like, mastering martial arts. Most people, Clifford, I mean, I can't even begin to fathom what that is. All right. And I'm just trying to figure out how to bridge the gap, just inch it a little bit to how practical, right? This power of six, the principles of the power of six, how powerful that really is in getting to where you want to be. Like, it didn't happen overnight, right? Your power of six, your principles, your six principles have been your guide, have been your anchor. Steve has developed his anchors along the way, and maybe that came in the form of Hapkido, right? A completely new manifestation of a martial art, right? It's something new. Its origin is you. And going after that, I mean, I'm yakking, bro, but you inspire me. You and Steve, dude. I strive for that physicality, that experience, and I will just train to it. Thank you guys for being that inspiration for me and walking with me along the way. You're incredible coaches. So, Clifford.
Yeah, thank you. And I say, like, even going back to the sixth principle of greatness within. Greatness within is seeing greatness in others. And when Steve, for instance, he's talking about, like, man, it can irk me when people are small-minded, right? And I get it 100%, because it's almost like someone's trying to build their building, and these medium-sized buildings are trying to knock them down to keep them from building. And I don't care that a person's building is higher or bigger or better than mine. I ask for that because it helps me get better. It helps me stand up and be a better competitor. Competition isn't, I need to fight against you. The competition is the fight within ourselves.
Let me ask this, Clifford, because there's two sides to this coin. And I think sometimes competitors or people that are driven forward are, like you said, hey, I want to achieve this. That's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is not making those choices, not having the courage to do those things. I think we think about as well, at least I do once in a while. And sometimes maybe for people that are listening, that might be an easier reason for them to make the right decision, such as what kind of person does that make you when you don't make that choice to build a bigger building, And I think, if you want to use the word, well, geez, I'd be a coward if I didn't do this. That's a motivation right there, because you don't want to walk around being a coward. And so you're going to go, I'm sorry, this is the only option I have.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very true. Very true. And I say, like, in life, some people might not want to hear this, but I guess it is what it is. You're either moving forward or you're moving backward. And neither is wrong. Like, neither is wrong, right? You just have to accept the consequences for both of those things. So, for instance, if a person is going to be like a hater, then they probably don't want to be around Steve. Like, because Steve's gonna be like, all right, you want me to show you some of my knife techniques? Like, no, but I'm just saying, like, when you realize that and the flow of reality, it's saying, like, okay, Rick talks about, what do I want to be? What do I want to experience? Anyone can come around me, right? They're just going to hear the true mirror of themselves, because I dive so deep into people's reality. Like, I go deep into their reality. I just don't let their reality placate into mine. Just because they have their own bullshit doesn't mean that I have to listen to it. Okay, yeah, they got their own shit. Cool. Doesn't mean I got to hold it. And I can call it out or choose not to. Like, that's my choice. I get to say, like, that's bullshit and this is why. Or, oh, they really don't want to hear that I see their bullshit. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your superpower right there.
Yeah.
Not having kryptonite is your superpower.
Rock solid, man. Rock solid, Mr.
Yeah.
Clifford Starks.
Awesome. Go ahead, Rick.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Clifford Starks, man. I mean, you're Pono, bro.
Yeah.
I'll step out and let you close it out if you'd like.
Let's close it out together.
All right. Well, we'll close it all out together.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone who has watched this. I hope you've gotten massive value. And I appreciate Steve. I appreciate Rick. You guys are both superstars. And we hold one another accountable. That's the fun of this journey. Is we're a bunch of guys who want to set the bar higher every day and have fun and just see how far we can go.
That's it. That's Pono.
Aloha.
All right, guys. Have a great one.
All right. Take care, everyone.